So I've now sewn around the whole waistband, nice and close to this edge, so the bottom edge of the fold, not up the top here. And the only place I haven't sewn was between my 2 pins, and there is the gap there. So what that means is we can get something up inside this tunnel that we have now created. And that's a good thing because we need to insert the waistband, the elastic to hold your shorts up. Because if you look at the waist now, you think, well, that's really big, but the elastic is going to help bunch up your waist. So first you need to collect your elastic. Got mine here. And you need to make sure you've got some scissors and also a safety pin for this last step. So we're nearly at the end of your shorts. You've done really well so far. So first we need to measure the elastic around our waist. But when you measure it around your waist, you don't want to just have it in its normal sort of tension. So you need to stretch it a bit around your waist so that it feels firm enough to actually hold your shorts up, but not so firm that it's giving you a muffin top or feels uncomfortable and tight. And I also want you to think about where you wear your shorts. Do you wear them closer to your belly button up higher, or do you wear them lower on your hips? And measure your elastic around that section. So I'm going to measure around my waist and then just overlap the elastic by about 3 centimeters. Make a mark with a pencil. So I've got a pencil ready to go, and then that's where I'm going to cut my elastic. So I'll just show you that now. Now obviously my waist is growing at the moment with the baby inside, so I'm going to do under my belly around my hips for my measurement. So measuring around and then stretching the elastic so that it feels firm, that it's actually going to hold up my shorts, but not so tight that it's strangling me. So that feels pretty comfy, so I'm going to make a mark where it overlaps about 3 centimeters. So I've made my mark. I can now cut my elastic, and that is going to go around my waist and hold my shorts up. So now we need to thread this through the pocket or the tunnel that we've created, and our safety pin is going to help us do that. So take your safety pin. The bigger the better for the safety pin. I could only find a medium one, so it'll be okay. You just want to safety pin just the top part of the elastic, because when you're trying to push the elastic through, it's soft. It's good to have something firm at the start so you can actually push it through a bit better. So finding where your hole is, you need to thread, starting with the safety pin end, up and through, and push it to one side, and you're going to tunnel it all the way around. 2 tips I've got for this. 1, don't let the other end that you've got here go inside the hole, because you need to keep this end out. Alright, so it is okay if your fabric ends up bunched on top of the elastic. Number 2, my tip is to use both hands. Feel where your, my screen just went black. Hopefully that's still going. Feel where your safety pin is, so I can feel it's inside between here and here. You can almost see it through. So I'm going to push behind the safety pin, push and gather my fabric on top. Gather, gather, grip the safety pin again and shuffle it through. Okay, so that's where I started, and I've now got my elastic all the way through here. So I'm going to keep going all the way around until I get back to the start. And there it is. Back to the start, back out of the same hole where we started. Oop. So now what I need to do is secure my two ends together. So I'm going to overlap one on the other. And I can take out my safety pin now so it won't get in the way. And I'm going to pin the two ends together. But before I sew it, I'm going to check and feel all the way around to make sure the elastic hasn't twisted on the inside, because there's nothing worse than wearing a pair of shorts that's got twisted elastic on the inside. So pin it where you think it's the right way, and then just check all the way around that it feels nice and flat. All right, and you'll feel if it's twisted, you'll feel it kind of going up and over through the fabric. Yep, all good. So I've got my elastic overlapped about 3 centimeters. So from there to there it's overlapped. That's how much spare I allowed when I measured it. And I'm now going to go to the sewing machine and just pull all the rest of my fabric out of the way for now and sew a big box around the edge, excuse me, in straight stitch. So turning the corners, going all the way around, and then do an X through the middle as well. What that does is we secure the elastic with the sewing, and we need to make it really secure because this is going to have tension when you stretch the elastic. You don't want it to come undone. So that's why we do a rectangle or a square and then an X in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that and show you what it looks like after. Now sewn, if you look, try and get the light right, you can see a square, roughly a square with an X in the middle. That there is what you want to do, so that if I stretch it, no matter how much I stretch it, it's not going to come undone, which is a good thing. So now we're going to allow it to all sit into the tunnel, right, by stretching out the shorts. Stretching them out, stretching, and now they look a lot more like shorts because they've actually got the stretchy waist, all right, where they go bigger and smaller. But what we do have is still our opening here where we threaded our elastic through the tunnel, so we now need to close that up. So we need to flatten that bit out and make sure the elastic is out the way, but we just basically start straight sewing from this side all the way along to this side and just close the gap, so it looks like we've continued our sewing all the way around. We just join this line to here. So I'm going to sew that now, and then there's only one more step and you will have finished your shorts. So the hole is now sewn over. I've just stitched from here to here, so it just looks like my other row of stitching has continued, right, and there's no more holes. My elastic is nice and enclosed, so it's not going to go anywhere. So to prevent our elastic from twisting, because sometimes in the washing machine that does happen, we're going to do a final step which will stop that happening as much. I want you to flip your shorts through the right way. We get to have a good look at them now. Don't they look wonderful? Woo. Right, we're going to do a ditch stitch, and it's called a ditch stitch because we are finding the ditches where our seams are, and we're going to sew in them or as close to that ditch as we can. Now on our waistband there is 4 ditches, all right, or seams. So if I show you up close here, this is actually where the join, right, between the front and the back is. Then over around there'll be 2 on the side, so 1 on this side, right, where our side seam is, and it's quite hard to see because of the pattern. And if you've sewn neatly, you won't even really notice it, but you find those ditches, 1 at the back and 1 on the other side. So this time, this is the only bit of sewing we do on the good side, so that we know we get it in the right spot. So on the good side, I'm going to first of all even out my elastic by giving it a good stretch, right, till it's flat and letting it go back. So see how the crumpling or the gathering is fairly even all the way across. You don't want to have it all gathered on one side and then flat on the other, because that's going to make the waist tight on one side and loose on the other. So you need to have an even gathering. I now find my 4 ditches and I'm going to sew just on the waist section, so just on that hem bit, the tunnel we made, the 5 centimeters from top to bottom, so from here to here, through the fabric and through the elastic. So that's going to anchor it in place and stop it from flipping over. So I'm going to do that 4 times. So I'm going to do that now and keep the film going. Done. So I've done my 4 ditch stitches. So you should hardly notice this row of stitching because what you're aiming to do is sew right in that join. So right up and down. Screen went black again. Okay, so right up and down in there and then trim off all your loose threads. Now basically the construction of your shorts is finished. So it's only if you wanted to add anything else for looks. If you wanted to add something around the legs, you know, frilling or anything, or a little pocket on the back, if you have time, you can add those things, just negotiate with your teacher. The only other thing some students like to do, because there is no tag to show you which is the back and which is the front, is to sew a little tag out of your fabric at the back. So you can also add that as an addition. Now, how do we find where the back is? Right, good question. First, we need to find in the crotch seam where there is an X, so 2 joins meet in like an X shape, and I'm going to pinch that section and hold it up and dangle my shorts. I then am going to stretch out right down to the waistband the 2 layers. So now what I can see is this layer, back so you can see how this layer is shorter and this one is longer from the crotch. See how that's much longer? So remembering the back piece is the longer or the bigger piece so it's got room to go around your bum. So the longer bit from the crotch, that is the back there. So if you want, you could just get a little square of fabric or felt and add it to the back section. I just recommend doing the stitching from the good side and aiming again for a row of stitching you've already sewn along so you don't get an extra ugly line of sewing. So you can add that in. Before you hand them up, make sure you get rid of any of these loose kind of threads. You might like to give them a nice iron and then fold them up neatly and you're done. Well done. You finish your boxer shorts.